Okay. All right. I hear nickel, I hear oxide, and I heard a 2. All right. Why do we say 2? Does it need a Roman number? Yes. Okay. If you look up nickel on the oxidation sheet had +2, +3, and +4 if memory serves. Okay. So that tells us we definitely need a Roman number right there. Okay. Now, how do we decide what Roman number it needs? What were we focusing on yesterday? We have to look up what? The second element. Okay. So when we look up the second element, it has a -2 right there. So, is there a 2 in that formula anywhere? Nope. What does that tell us? It was reduced, right? So I told you yesterday just to multiply the 2 through the bottom. So Ni has a 2 and O has a 2. So what number came from the nickel? The Roman number 2. I'll put the little bars there to make somebody happy. Okay? Yes? No? Okay. Number 2. How do we name that one? All right. I hear sulfur and oxide. I like those. All right. Does this one need a Roman number? Yep. When you look up sulfur, it has several oxidation numbers on that sheet also. So, given that that one has several numbers listed on the sheet, we're going to need an oxidation number there too. So, when you look up sulfur, Roman number, look up O. What's this number listed on the sheet? -2. Is there a 2 right there? No. What's that tell us? It was reduced. So again, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So what number came from the S? The 4. So I'm going to put Roman number 4 right there. All right. The last one. SB is what? Antimony. So antimony. All right. O is oxide. No, I just picked O on this one just because it's an easy one for you guys to figure out whether it was reduced or not reduced. Okay. And then, was this one going to need a Roman number? Okay. So, Roman number. And was this one reduced? No. This one had a 2 also. But what do you notice right here? A 2. So the 2 is actually written there in the formula this time. So if the 2 is in the formula, was it reduced? No. Can you reduce a 2 and a 5 in math class? That should be another indicator to you that this one was not reduced. Think about your fractions. Things like what we had a second ago, S2O4, would that be possible to reduce? Yeah, you can reduce a 2 and a 4. Can you reduce a 2 and a 5? No. So that should also help you figure out, no, that was not reduced. So what number came from the SB? The 2 came from the where? The 2 came from the O. So what came from the SB? The 5. Is everybody okay with why we got a 5 and not a 2? Okay, because I heard a couple 2s out there. Yes? Okay? No? Okay? Okay. So to write the formulas, silicon has what oxidation number? Silicon has what? Okay. Oxide has a, so we bring the 2 down, the 4 down, and we have Si2O4. Now, what are we going to do with those? We're going to reduce them, and it's going to become SiO2. Everybody okay with that? Devontae, do me a favor and close the door. All right. Chromium has what oxidation number? Okay, chromium has a 6. Phosphate is PO4, and it has a 3. Now, phosphate's a what? Polyatomic ion, so I'm going to put parentheses there. Now, a lot of times people miss this one, and they don't reduce. Make sure you notice even before you reduce. This has a 6, and that has a 3. So what's going to happen with a 6 and a 3? They're going to reduce. So when you crisscross, and you bring that 3 down, and you bring that 6 down, okay? A lot of times people write Cr3, PO4 with a 6, and they stop there, okay? And I'll give you partial credit for that. I won't mark it wrong, but you want full credit. So what are you going to do with this? You're going to take this 3 and this 6, and you're going to do what with them? You're going to reduce. So that's going to reduce by what?
3.
So that's going to become a 1, and this is going to become a what?
2.
So you're going to change it to CR PO4 with a 2, because you're going to reduce. Okay, so even ionic compounds that have metals in them will reduce. Okay, they don't happen very often, but they do happen. All right, the last one. Zinc cyanide. All right, zinc is what?
CN.
Has what oxidation number? Cyanide is what? CN. Has what oxidation number? What did I do? That's right. It's the part everybody forgets. Even though CN has no numbers on it, you got CN from what side of that chart? The polyatomic ion sides, you got to put parentheses around it. 2 comes down, 1 comes down, so you get ZN, CN with a 2. Because without the parentheses, it's what? Without the parentheses, it's what? It's wrong. You don't get any partial credit. Okay? You've got to have those parentheses in there or you don't get credit. And the 2 has to be where? On the outside. If it's inside the parentheses, it's just as wrong. Okay? Questions about that? No? Okay. Can we look at homework? See how we did there? All right. Yeah, I had a feeling. This homework sheet's blank. I can't write or stick the answers under the light. So y'all are going to have to listen. All right, so we're supposed to do 1 through 12. So number 1, carbon, Roman number 4, oxide. Number 2, carbon, 2, oxide. Number 3, sulfur, 4, oxide. 4, sulfur, 6, oxide. Number 5, nitrogen, 1, oxide. Number 6, nitrogen, 2, oxide. Number 7, nitrogen, 3, oxide. 8, nitrogen, 4, oxide. 9, nitrogen, 4, oxide. 10, nitrogen, 5, oxide. Number 11, phosphorus, 3, chloride. And 12, phosphorus, 5, chloride. Yes, ma'am. 10 is nitrogen 5 oxide. 11 is phosphorus 3 chloride. What did you say, Jada? Number which one? 5 is nitrogen 1 oxide. Be glad to. All right. So number 8 is NO2. All right. So NO2 would be named nitrogen. And then oxide. All right. Does nitrogen need a Roman number? Okay. Now, what do we know oxygen's oxidation number is? All right. And there should be a 2 here, right? But there's not. So that tells us it was reduced. So if I multiply the 2 through these subscripts, I get N2O4. So what number came from the N? That's why it was nitrogen 4 oxide. Anybody else? Anything out of 1 through 12 that's bothering you? 4. 4? All right. 4 was SO3. So S is sulfur. O is oxide. All right. What oxidation number does O have? Okay. So it should be here, and it's not. So that tells us it was reduced, right? So multiplying the 2 through the subscripts, we get S2O6. So what number came from the S? 6. So that's how I knew it was 6. Anybody else? Huh? 5? All right, 5 is into O. All right, so N is? Huh? N is nitrogen. And then O is oxide. All right, and you told me O was a -2, which is good. Now, this one's different than the last two because what is there? When you bring the 2 down, the 2's already in the formula, right? So was this one reduced? No. See, this one wasn't reduced, and that's what makes this one different. Because when you look, this 2 is there in the formula, okay? So this one wasn't reduced. You don't have to multiply by 2 or anything because the 2 is still there. So this number is what came from the N. So what number came from the N? That's what we put in Roman numbers. It's just a 1. Okay? Because that one wasn't reduced. What else? Anybody? So we all feel good about it. We can do the stock system. Yes? All right, let me get Lewis's papers. Lewis, did you have a note or anything, or are you just like? Okay. We'll put a note on my computer to mark you here. Lord knows you don't need any more absences. All right. This is you. This is you. That's you. I think the rest of these are angels. All of these are yours. And we're just going to be up to go for homework.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I thought with this binary system, like,
So, because this is a polyatomic ion in its first, that would be treated as a binary ion, so you end in IV. So you'd say ammonia sulfide. Okay. This one, you were supposed to put sulfate according to the directions. So that one should have been SO4. You just used the wrong ion based on the directions. And what did you do there? Yeah, yeah. Anybody else question on the pink sheet? Anybody? I don't mind questions. If you won't have one, I think that's pretty nice when I'm like asked. I'm trying not to fight people. Or snap. I only yell at my 13-year-old. All right. Anything else before we talk old system and really mess everybody up? It's just the reality of where we're at. All right, so now that everybody's good, they understand what they're doing. We have to add a kink. All right? Unfortunately, the state wants you to also be able to use old system or the prefix system, which is not a bad thing. Y'all are in a chemistry class, so you should be able to use old system and the prefix system. The challenge is, like I said yesterday, you can only use this with what kind of compounds? You can only use this with covalent, okay? So, just make yourself a note. This is only covalent, which is, again, all non-metals. So even though you're going to like this, you can only use it in limited fashions. So, how are we going to name with old system? Number one, we're going to name the first element just like we do in stock. Now, we will add a prefix if there is more than one atom. Okay? We will only add a prefix if there's more than one atom. For example, 2 or 3. So if it had AS2O5, that would need a prefix because it has how many on the front of it? It has 2. That would get a prefix. If it doesn't have, let's say, a 2 or a 3 or a 4, would we put a prefix? The answer would be no. That sounded a little rough there, Jada, but that was the right answer. All right. Now, the second element. We're going to name the second element. We're going to add an IDE ending. We're going to add a prefix. Doesn't matter how many there are. We add a prefix. I'm going to tell you what the prefixes are in just a second.
Is that water supposed to be running?
Is there water running?
I hear
It
it.
has been.
Let me go see. It's possible. I don't pay for the water, but I can't think of any good reason for it to be running. Yeah. Now, I would like to say, if you go to the water fountain like one of my students in fourth period, you get bit by something, I won't know that. Okay? I don't want you to come in and make a scene because you claim to be bitten by some big hairy bug out there. Okay? Come in, sit down, and I won't know about it for an hour and 15 minutes.
I'd be scared.
I don't believe he got bit by a big hairy bug either.
I would have been screaming. Y'all would have heard. Y'all would have died.
He even had red candy in his mouth and then pretended his tongue got flung up. Here you go, it. I suppose the best part of the story, though, is at the end of class when somebody pushed him over and he tripped and the spider fell out of his shoe.
And a spider fell out of his shoes. Maybe something did bite him.
It's entirely possible that something did bite him, but it might have been the spider in his shoe. I don't know. But the bite was on his way up here on his hand. And I'm not sure if it was a mosquito bite. It was not some big hairy animal that attacked him in the hallway. And I'm certain he didn't need the rescue squad that he claimed he needed when he came back to the water fountain.
Rescue someone. Okay.
If we won't
Just a
have
little.
subscripts more than 7, then how do we have 8 times 7?
Because some of the covalent compounds are going to not be dismantled here.
I wouldn't have talked about it. I would have crying.
It
Don't make sense.
did. He tripped, his shoe came off, and the spider crawled out. All right, everybody got them? So, for example, to illustrate how this is done, everybody can name this one, right? So, where does the name actually come from? What is the name of C? How many carbons are in the name? So, when we write the name, we write carbon. All right? There is no prefix because there is only one C. Okay? You don't put a prefix on it because there's only one carbon. Now, the second element, the oxygen, always gets IDE because it's what kind of compound? It's binary. Okay? So if you look at the steps we just wrote down, look board, work with me here. All right, name the second element, oxygen. Y'all said oxide because it gets IDE as binary. Those two we already know, so oxide, and we add a prefix. It doesn't matter how many you have, you add a prefix. Okay, so looking at what you know, you have to know these by tomorrow, by the way. Before you freak out, y'all know all but probably 3 of them. Everybody knows mono, di, and tri. You might not know tetras 4. You guys have known penta, probably from driver's ed or math class. Hexa and hepta. You probably know hexagon from math class. Hepta, you might not know. Everybody knows octa and octopus and octagon. And you might not know nona or deca. All right, so you might have to know 4. Those of you who've had Spanish probably know more than that. So before you all freak out on me, you know most of these, okay? You might have to know 3 or 4 more by tomorrow. So when we cruise over here, carbon has how many? Well, I said carbon here, but I meant oxygen. So oxygen has 2. So we write di and then oxide like we said. Okay? And that's how you write its name. Now, the thing that makes this system different, like I said yesterday, is there are no oxidation numbers. There is no crisscrossing. I didn't ask you an oxidation number. I'm never going to, even when we write the formulas, okay? I'm not going to ask you an oxidation number. We're not going to crisscross. It doesn't matter, okay? So there's never going to be a Roman number either. We're just going to look at the subscripts, and we're going to write the formula. That's why people like this method. The problem is you can't use it all the time. Yes, ma'am.
If there was a 4 next to the C, what would the name be?
Tetra, carbon.
Carbon dioxide?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So if we had one like P4O10, said you want one's got some numbers on the front. Okay. How many P's are there?
4.
There are 4. So this time we have to use a prefix on the first one. Okay. So this time must use a prefix on the first element. Okay, so this time the first element has to have a prefix. So what prefix are we putting on that first element? So we're going to write tetra. All right, what's the P? We're going to write tetraphosphorus. All right. O always gets a prefix. Okay, so what prefix do we put on it? So we write deca. And then oxide. And it's that easy. Shh. Every element, doesn't matter if it's oxygen or what. The second element always has a prefix. Yes. Now, and the vowels, we keep both, unless you have something like CO. Okay, so C would be what? Carbon. Whoops, I left my N off. Monoxide would be mono. And then we have two O's. We don't write two O's. We drop one. Okay, and make it monoxide that way. Okay, we don't have two O's side by side. We're left two O's? No, I wouldn't. I would allow that spelling mistake. Okay, questions? Think you can do it?
Maybe.
Maybe. All right, you got your homework in front of you still? Find it. Couldn't have lost it already. Yeah. Are you the only one who was asking yesterday, ABL too? Sure. All right. Let's do, I don't want to do as many as we did last time when we were here all day. Let's do 3 to 12. Do 3 through 12 in old system. This shouldn't take us very long. Okay, 3 through 12 in old system. And then we'll talk about how to write the names into formulas, which is equally as easy. And then we're going to talk about mixing it all up and see how we do. Okay, 3 through 12. Let me fix Lewis before I forget.
So do you write the name based off the or based off the beginning of it, or do you have to switch one?
No, you write the name based on the subscript. You do not switch anything.
Miss Wall, if it was just one, I think it had a number, it was one. We just put the name or we put mono
Depends. Is it on the first element or the second element?
first.
You don't write anything.
So it was on the second right now.
Yes. Are we done? Need more time? Where are we at? You're done? All right, if I can do what I'm putting in a minute. I was just trying to put in nitrogen in the next test scores form. And there, and they should update for you anytime now. All right. So if we look at question number 3, what you got? Sulfur dioxide. Number 4. Sulfur trioxide. Number 5. Dinitrogen monoxide. And again, you can eliminate one of those others. If you didn't, it's okay. All right. Number 6. Nitrogen monoxide. Number 7. Dinitrogen trioxide. Number 8. Nitrogen dioxide. Number 9. Dinitrogen tetraoxide. Number 10. Dinitrogen pentaoxide. Where did I say stop? Okay. 11. Phosphorus trichloride. And 12. Phosphorus pentachloride. All right. Now, let's talk about mixing some up. So, let's say that we have I don't know if that was on your sheet. Let's do let's say these are the first five on the sheet we're going to do. Okay? And we want to write their names. And this is a hodgepodge of what we've done since last week, or since y'all did your lesson this weekend. All right? How do we write their names? What do we know? Can you tell me about the first one? Because this is the biggest section on your test. Okay? We have essentially 2 math problems to learn, 2 or 3 math problems to learn how to do, and then we're ready to test. So, which is the next thing we'll do. What's tomorrow? Friday. We'll have that covered on Friday, so we'll leave the test Monday or Tuesday. All right. So, how do we do this? What do we do first? What do you think about?
Metals.
All right. Whether it's a metal or non-metal. All right. So, what can you tell me about AS205? All right. They're both non-metals. So, what can you do in the first one? You can do the prefix. Do you have to? No. Okay, you don't have to. So you have a choice here. This one, as Chris said, is a non-metal, and it's a non-metal. So you can choose either old or stock system. Okay? I will tell you, there is one question on the test that I have told you you must use old system on. One. Okay? Otherwise, you may use stock on every single question on the test. However, if you prefer old system, you may use old system on those that are eligible. So on this one, you may choose. So AS205, how do I write it in stock? What's AS's name? Arsenic. What's O? Oxide. And what do I have to have in stock system? I got to decide, do I need a Roman number? Number. How do I decide if I need a Roman number? So does it have more than one?
Yes.
It does. So I'm going to put parentheses. And which number came from arsenic? Was it reduced?
No.
It was not reduced because O has a -2. If I look right there, there's a 2. So it was not reduced. So what number came from arsenic? It was a 5. That's one way. And it works every day of the week. Now, if you were a fan of what we just did, oops, I forgot to teach y'all how to do the formulas. I got to go back. All right, we'll do this first. Now go back. All right, so How do we do it in the way you just practiced? Do you need any oxidation numbers, any of that backwards crisscrossing stuff?
No.
How many O or how many ASs are there?
2.
So do we need a prefix?
Yeah.
So we write it as diarsenic and pentoxide. Either of those names is beautiful. Now, can I do that in the next one? How'd you know no, Jada? Because what? Exactly. Okay? As soon as Jada looked up here and said, that's a metal, that old system stuff was out. The only thing you can use here is stock. Okay? No old system. As soon as she said, that's a metal, stock is, or old is out. We only use stock. Okay? Secondly, how many elements you got there? How many? 3. So there's probably a what in this name? Polyatomic ion. Okay? So none of that prefix stuff can be used here. So NA's name is what? So we're going to write sodium. Where are we going to find a polyatomic ion? Because everything after sodium, you need to look up how. Together. So everything after sodium is together. So what's his name? So you're going to write sulfate. What's the last step? Do you need a Roman number? How do you decide?
No.
Does who have more than one oxidation number? So does sodium have more than one? So you're done. So you said no, it doesn't have more than one. You're finished. Sodium sulfate. Okay? What can you tell me about it? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yesterday, I would just, is this one of those examples where like, stock is not always going to be the wrong number? So yesterday you said that in stock you always have a Roman numeral, but
No, stock will either need one or won't need one based on that first element. So you look up that first element on the chart. If it has more than one number listed, it needs a Roman number. If it only has one number, it will not need a Roman number. And sodium only has a +1. That's all it's ever going to be. Okay, what can you tell me about number 3? I don't like Caroline's answer. That's why I didn't go to that. It's a what? I love that answer. Okay, it's a what? It's an acid. I need y'all to recognize those 4. And I need you to just write down its name, which is what? That is a fabulous answer, Jada. Because I got so many of you yesterday for 10 points. If it had been money, man, I could have a nice dinner this weekend. I could afford to take Shelby out for her birthday tonight. It'd be nice. But it wasn't money. It was just points. So, because there's only about 4 or 5 of you in here yesterday who got full credit on that quiz for the acid that I put on that quiz. Not many of you got it. So, don't let me get you on the next one. I will get you on the test. There's 2, okay? Some of you are going to lose points because you don't believe me and you won't learn them. And I'm going to get you. Learn your acids. On the next test with balanced equations and chemical equations, I'm going to get you again. On the next test on stoichiometry, when you got to write the equations and do the math, I'm going to get you again because you still don't believe me. I'm telling you now, they're there. Learn the 4 acids. MgCl2. What can you tell me? It's what? All right, why? Why stop? You're exactly right. Just tell me why for the people who don't know. It's a metal. Okay, because those of you who've got it, just give me a reason for the people who don't have it. Okay, it's a metal. As soon as you know Mg, and every time we say stock, that's the Roman number. Roman numbers. Oh, you're like my tongue swollen today. Now, once we have that narrowed down, magnesium, I heard. What comes next? All right, chlorine becomes chloride. And from there, do I need a Roman number? How do I decide?
No.
All right, Diamond said no. Why? That's right. Magnesium only has one oxidation number. Every time you look it up, it's a +2. There are no exceptions to that rule. Okay? When you look it up, it's a +2. All right, last one. What can you tell me? It's what? It's old system. Okay? If you would like. Does it have to be old system? No. Or it could be stock. Now, how did Chris come to that conclusion? They're both nonmetals. Okay? So, if I do stock, what would its name be in stock? Okay, I heard carbon. I heard what? All right, I heard chloride. I thought I heard a Roman number. I just couldn't make out what you said. 4. It is correct. Carbon 4, except I forgot my line. Carbon 4 chloride. All right, and then if we do it in old, carbon, no prefix or need a prefix? No prefix. And then tetrachloride. Are we okay with how to write names?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that's a little cumbersome to go through all that, but that's what you have to do. All right. So let's talk formulas. Now, we did not do this with old systems, so let me hit the highlights of that. Here's the only rule you got to remember. Prefixes equal the subscript. That's it. Prefixes are the subscript. Okay? There's no crisscrossing. There's no oxidation numbers. Remember when I said that? So when I write a formula, like, let's say I write silicon dioxide. The prefixes are the subscripts. So I have silicon and I have oxide, right? What prefix is here? None, right? That means the subscript is what? 1. What prefix is here? What subscript is here? The prefixes are the subscripts. There's no crisscrossing in old system. Does that make sense? That's the beauty of old system with writing the formulas. So, if I have like N2, whoops, I'm writing the formula again. Nitrogen, let's make it nitrogen trioxide. All right, so now I want to write the name. All right, I have nitrogen, right? How many do I have? So I make this 2. And I have oxide. I have how many? So I make this 3. That's how you do old system writing the formulas. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? No? Yep. Okay. So now let's write some formulas that are mixed up. Are we going to do what? No, I'm going to change them up. I'm going to, remember, we're practicing all mixed up. So now I'm going to give you 5 examples where they're all mixed up. Okay? All right. So 5 examples where they're all mixed up. Let's have, what I give you? I'll do it wrong. I gave y'all formulas and y'all wrote names. Now I got to write names and give you formulas. All right. So let's say that I give you calcium chlorate. I give you let's say phosphorus, penta iodide. I give you nitric acid. I give you potassium nitride, and I give you manganese 7-permanganate. There. There's a nice eclectic mix of types of things. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Don't get bit by anything.
So there's like old system and stock system mixed in. We're supposed to use that.
Yep. So again, everything's all mixed up. Old system and stock system mixed in here. So, how are you going to recognize, first of all, that old system is mixed in there? What should jump out at you to say, I'm old system? Penta. Okay? As soon as you see this, Penta should jump out at you and say, I am old system. Okay? That one should be an easy one. The other thing that should jump out at you and scream, you should know me, is what else? That should jump out at you and say, I'm supposed to be memorized. Now, if you look down your list of polyatomic ions, there's at least one that jumps out in my head. Let me see if there's another one. But one sometimes throws people off, and it's an exception. So let me point it out to you. Find, I think there's two. And I don't use one of them very often. Find about a third of the way down. It says dichromate. And I use it all the time. All right? About a third of the way down, dichromate is a polyatomic ion. It is not old system when you see the word dichromate. Okay? That's just the name of a polyatomic ion. All right? If you cruise a little further down, about 2/3 of the way down, almost at the bottom, it says diphosphate. Diphosphate. And there's one almost at the bottom that says hexachloroplatinate, which I use rarely, but you will see it sometimes. Those are just names of ions. Those are not old system names. Okay? But dichromate I use regularly. That is not old system naming. Just keep that in mind. All right? Now, when you see penta in front of something like iodide, that should jump out at you and you go, I'm old system naming. Otherwise, almost everything else you see is going to be what? Old or stock? Stock. Okay? So, with the exception of that one old system that we just learned how to do, everything else is going to require you to find what? Oxidation numbers and do what with them? Crisscross. So, phosphorus pentaiodide. What are we going to do? What do we do with the P? What's in front of it? So, you write 1. Iodide has a what? What does penta mean? So it goes there. That's old system. That's the only one that works that way. No, I was just emphasizing. All right, nitric acid. What's its formula? Okay. Now, all the rest of them, we work the way we've always worked. What do we do for calcium chlorate? What's calcium? Ca. What's its oxidation number? All right, chlorate. What's chlorate? ClO3. What's its oxidation number? Okay, I'm putting parentheses around it. 1 comes down over here, 2 comes down over here. I wind up with Ca, ClO3 with a 2. All right. What makes chlorate different from nitride? What should pop out at you about the way I wrote chlorate and nitride? ATE and IDE. What's that tell you or should tell you by now? One's polyatomic and one is what? Binary. Okay, so this one is going to have how many elements? Okay, potassium is a what? And nitride is what? Potassium's oxidation number is? Nitrogen is? Okay. Manganese 7 permanganate. Manganese has what for an oxidation number? 7. Remember, that always goes to the first element if you don't know that. Permanganate. MnO4 with a negative 1. All right, so the 7 and the 1 are going to crisscross. 7 goes here, 1 goes there. Mn, MnO4 with a 7. Got it? Think you can practice?
Yeah.
Not did you want to? Can you? Not interested in whether you want to. We all had our druthers, we'd be at home in our pajamas. Most of us probably still sound asleep. You want to survive? You look like you're going to pass out on the floor. It is the 20th already. All right. Now, on this, you will see between 1 through 19 a hodgepodge of compounds between covalent and ion. So what you can do. You might have your weapons on you to your wallet. Little dishes.
What?
Here's my life. All right, do all that you can before I stop you. Huh? I'm not going far. I'm only going to put these 2 tests up. You can do it.
Okay.
On the test, I will grade it either way.
Okay.
There are only 2 questions I have said on the test that, for example, there's 2 covalent compounds. One of them I have said you must do in stock, and one of them I have said you must do in old system.
Okay.
Every other question on the test that has an either or, you may choose.
Okay.
Okay? But one of them I have specified old, and one of them I have specified stock. Okay? But others you may choose. Anybody have a question? Won't help.
So the dividing line between non-metals and metals is the stairs.
Generally. I would tell you if it's on the left, treat it as a metal. If it's on the right, treat it as a non-metal.
Anything with
That's
a
metal.
stair would be.
It's in the staircase. Right here. If it's on the left of those stairs, make it metal. If it's on the right, make it a non-metal. Okay? They're actually metalloids if they're on the stairs, but we won't talk about that until we do the periodic table. Question? You sure? I need to answer questions. Where's your blue card? Okay. Make sure you're blue. You like the question? Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's it. ATE. That's not going back. So, you're going back. And 8. Over here. Okay. So you go back. Okay. Go back. That's it. 8. You 5. Okay. You 5. 3. 6. Your 2. Squash your 2. Like you work. Yes, that's better. Upside that. Inside that there too. Okay. That's sulfide. Sulfate. Sulfate. One here too. Does that make sense? What's wrong with cats? Doctors. So I see it to touch it. I need. One. Yes.
So like, the birth of here doesn't have a season
Yeah, you're right. Cool. It doesn't matter. It's already written.
So like, it doesn't matter if it's mental or not.
Now, I wrote it in old systems. You're using the prefixes to tell me the subscript. You're not first right?
Okay.
That makes sense?
I didn't stop.
Yeah, either or. Because if you're trying to do it as if it was binary with 2 elements, and I know that's not binary, it's not binary, it's probably not binary.
So that's
Well, it's already written in stock. So you're trying to do stock as if you were doing it here. You're just writing the formula here, so it doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter if it's, everything here is in the stock except for this one. That's the only thing that's in the system that's a prefix. Everything else is once the gene is already in the stock. You're just crisscrossing the writing formulas. Okay. So the part that you're actually asking that actually applies to 11 through 19. So you're still going to look up calcium, still going to look up iodate, and you're going to crisscross the way you did all these other formulas that you learned done. Okay, so look at calcium, look at iodate. Okay, now look at iodate. That's where you're going wrong. Because you're assuming it's binary. It doesn't have an IDE. Yeah. So find iodate over there. Yeah, there's where you messed up. Now, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, that was a mistake, you were trying to iodide, not iodate. And that's right. Well, yeah, you okay? Let's close up seriously. Go 5 then. Any first question? Yes. What is the use observation? Parentheses first and make those cross. And that is 2 bucks. Yeah. Yeah. That's one. You look at bromide, it's got all these, -1. You put the negative because it's last, so you have to pick the -1. All right, so like sulfide, when you look up sulfide, all right, sulfide has, you're gonna pick -2. Does that help? Okay. Who else has a question? Right
So-
there, Mark.
Old system will never work for polycarbonate.
That's correct. Okay, because that's old system. See, that's the oxidation. No oxidation. So you're just going to use the prefixes. So what's a prosulfur? So nothing's on salt. This was just S. And what's on the front of that? So you put 2 on the other. So it's just S1 and then O2. Who else has a question? Yep. Look at reduce. Yep, so reduce.
What number came from sulfur originally? Yep.
Who has a question? Yep, that one, yeah, it's like that because the parentheses, you can take them off there, but it's would have been outside. Let's do a good lot.
I was saying, there's other ways to do this.
Yeah.
There is, recording.
No, this 4 is inside the parentheses, that's part of the actual. And they have a +1, right? Right, so that 1 crisscross out here outside the parentheses around. You don't have the parentheses because it's 1.
Yes.
So this had a -2, and that -2 was right there on that in each one. So since we're going to remember, after you name this, everything after that you look together and find its name. So you're going to, that's what get together for one name. And then you try to, you don't change the ending or anything because that's a polygon guy. You have to worry about rubber number. No. You just write both polygon guy and names when you go. You know that? Easier. Very good. These two, represent their minor. These are the ATs. There's that polytongons. So look up polytongons. These two. What else? Question? None? Sure. I knew you'd reduce. Reduce there. Anybody else? Question? This one, the metal, you cannot use preface on those. Anybody else? That's a 7 or 6. That's the wrong symbol. Okay. That's not. So this would cost you the whole question on the test because you put calcium instead of carbon. Right, you can't use prefixes on this one because that's a metal. Same thing there, you can't use prefixes because that's a metal. Otherwise they're good. What else? Yep.
I can see.
Yeah. Doesn't cancel because those forces can they use, so you don't use an oxidation at all. Okay? You're gonna look at this 1s, that's 2s. Okay? No crisscrossing.
I've not seen.
No rubber number.
And they, reduce. All right. All right, you just lost.
But when you change the symbol on the element, I mark it wrong.
Yeah.
Tungsten's not you.
So when it's W, that would be right.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything except the last one. No room number on 19. How do you look at these ones? Yes. All right, for those of you who have not checked, let me call out some answers. Well, I don't know, I might be able to stick them under the light. Let me see if I have the answers. I might have these written down. This one was which one? Calcium iodate? I'm thinking I have this one written down. Yeah, I do. No, I don't want to update. Go away. All right, then the first 10 for those of you who have not checked your paper. Because I know there's lots of you I did not get to. I think that's fairly legible. All right, has everybody had a chance to check? All right, the bottom half. Oops, that's too far. And there's the bottom half. And those that can be written two ways, the answers are written two ways. Yes or no?
Okay, the zinc hydroxide.
Yes.
I put, we don't put.
Zinc can only be a +2 because it only has one number listed on the sheet of +2. It will always be +2.
Question.
So we will not write a Roman number there. Yes.
I don't remember what you said, sorry. I was listening.
Shocking. It's all good.
You said, like, if we write it up, it's not needed, it'll take off.
I marked it completely wrong.
Okay, I was listening, and I was listening.
Yeah, you only add them when they're needed, and if you add one and it's not needed, it's wrong. They're not sort of a add-on just to cover my rear. They can only be added when they're needed. Anybody, question? Before we move on. We're going to give you a little more practice for homework, and then we're going to move on and talk about some math. Ooh, I know you're excited. The math we're going to do today is easy. Super easy. When we get done, you're going to be like, that's all there is to it? I'm going to be like, yeah, there is. That's all there is to it. Even Lolly's going to like this one. All right, so no questions. All right. Lolly, you sure there are no weapons in that bag, right? Okay. Maybe you'll like the class better when there's no math. Well, you know, January's coming. No, not soon enough. We're on day 16. No, we're not on day 20 yet.
Is it really 90 days?
I could lie to you. The good news is your first period, so you know you'll test earlier than everybody else, so it won't really be 90. There are worse places to be. All right? Formula mass, molecular mass, molar mass, gram formula mass. They are all different names for what we're getting ready to calculate. Okay? All kinds of different names. Depends on the book, the author, the teacher as to which one they call. Okay? I do not know which one you might see on the final exam. Some books prefer formula mass. Some prefer molar mass. Some, it depends on the compound as to which one they call it. Some will call it formula mass if it's an ionic compound. Some will call it molecular mass if it's a covalent compound. I've even seen it called gram formula mass. So, what is or what are all these different names? These are the mass of a compound. Whoops, let me write it out. Now, last week, we could only find atomic mass, right? Atomic mass was the mass of an element. But now, this week, we've learned to write compound names. We're more sophisticated. So now, tomorrow, we're going to start moving our way into more sophisticated math. My magnesium came in yesterday, so we're going to do a lab next week where we're going to burn some magnesium, and y'all are going to learn how to write a lab report. I know y'all are really excited about that. So we're going to learn how to find the mass of a compound before you leave today. It's super, super easy. So let's say, everybody got what they need? I see a couple people still writing. Everybody got it? All right, so let's say that we want to find the mass of Na2SO4. What do you think we would need to do that? Yes, and what are we going to need off the periodic table? Of what? Okay, so we need the atomic mass of each element. We need one more thing. We're halfway there. What else do we need? The what? Okay. So I'll just write the element names. We've got Na, we got S, and we have O. All right, and let's find their masses real quick and I'll just write up there the other thing we need once you figure it out. All right, so what's the element mass for Na? 22.9. All right, what's sulfur? You can leave it unlocked, Mr. Wardlow. I just forgot. 32.0 what? Okay, and oxygen? That one's 16.0, so that's fine. All right, so we need one more thing. What's the one more thing we got to have? What do you think? If we want to find the mass of that compound. What do you mean by subunit? Okay, we need the number of each atom. We need the number of each atom. Like, how many NAs do we have is what Chris said. So how many NAs are in that compound? 2. All right. How many sulfurs are in that compound? And how many oxygens are in that compound? Now, given that sulfur doesn't have a number on it, we all know that that's a 1, right? If nothing's written on it, it's understood it's a 1, correct? So, we're going to multiply that together. Since y'all don't have calculators, I will do it for you because I'm nice that way. That's going to be 64. That's going to be 32.07. And I think I know that one, but let me not mess it up. Yeah, that'd have been okay. And since we kept the decimals, a lot of times I'll reduce this to whole numbers just so I don't have to use the calculator because the mass is 142. But since y'all have the decimal places, it's 141.87. All right. Now, what unit did we put on average atomic mass when we averaged them all together for isotopes? So, what unit are we going to put on this? AMU. Now, some of y'all like the abbreviation. So, what's the abbreviation? Or you can write U. Either one.
How many places after decimal do we do?
It doesn't matter because did I give you a number in the question? No. All I gave y'all was find the mass of this. So I didn't give you any numbers in the question. So the number in the answer doesn't matter. You don't have any significant digits to start with. So you can take it out however far you want. Questions about how to do that? No? What?
Okay, so let me know this. We go through some math. Let's find like the number of each atom and add all.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. All right. So your homework tonight is to practice naming. Okay? Everything is all mixed up. Now, you have a quiz tomorrow. Your quiz is on only covalent names. All right? Only covalent. 4 questions will say write in stock system. 4 questions will say write in old system. And 3 questions will say write the formulas using your prefixes. So you got to know. And one back. Yeah, with old system. Sorry, with the prefixes. Did I say stock? You know, we're mono ditrile, like I've written it like carbon disulfide. And you're going to have to put it in a formula. Or I've written carbon tetrachloride. And you've got to write it in a formula. Yeah, all of them.
What did you say?
Covalent naming.
So you said 10 on the line.
It's 10 questions. 4 will be stock, 4 will be old.
Mary Lloyd Callicutt, Kayla Jones,
Old system.
Brandon Hatch, Norberto Hurtado, and Sailor Huck, please come to the main office. That's Mary Lloyd Callicutt, Kayla Jones, Brandon Hatch, Norberto Hurtado, and Sailor Hucks.
Sailor, hear your name?
I didn't hit the ball for the last shot. No cell twice.
Anika Green, please come to guidance. Anika Green, please come to guidance.